Okay, so 1 through 5 questions that are specific that you'd like to see setups for. I'm not going to give an answer unless I do the setup. So,
Number 5.
Okay, number 5. Okay, first thing we have to do is balance. You just put a 2 in front of F2 to balance. Right? Next thing is, I like to use my equation. Guys, don't talk, okay? Okay, the next one I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of put where I'm at on this equation. So I have 4.5 moles of F2. Okay, it just shows me where I'm at, and then the question wants to know how many grams of CO2. That's what I'm trying to find. Okay, so then what I do is I go 4.5 moles of F2, and then what I need to do is I need to go to moles. If these are all moles down below, I could list out. I want to go to moles and then moles to grams. So down here I'm going to put moles of F2. And anytime I'm given moles, I'll just do a mole to mole right away. Okay? So then this next one would be moles of CO2. So if you kind of know where you're at, if you're given moles, you know you're probably going to have to do a mole ratio. Okay? If you're given grams, you're going to have to change it to moles. So if you don't know where to start, that's the easiest place to start. If you're given moles, you'll have to do a mole comparison to whatever you're trying to find a value of within your equation. So this would be 2, and this is 1. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. At this point, I'm right here. What I need to do is go up to grams of CO2. So down here, I'll put moles of CO2, and up here, I make my ratio grams to mole, to 1 mole. So carbon dioxide, CO2, got 1 carbon, 2 oxygens. I multiply those out to get the molar mass of how many grams are in a mole. So that's what goes up here. 1 mole to 44.01 grams. Okay, and then that would give my answer. Any questions? I think it's around 90 something grams is what you should come up with. $99 grams. Now, it's really nice when you guys are able to make sure you're writing everything out. It gets to the point where it's a little bit of work, but it's well worth it in which to kind of see where you're at and where you need to go. So, any others on this sheet that you would like? Yes. Number 4. Okay? We have to balance it. You've got to make sure it's balanced. So this is number 4 on the worksheet. NH3 plus CO2. Okay, so carbons balance, oxygens balance, H's don't balance, so I'm going to put a 2 here. And then also I've got 2 nitrogen. I think that's all you had to do to balance, is that right? Is that balance? I mean, when you guys did it, maybe you haven't got to that point.
Yeah, it's balanced.
2 nitrogens, okay. 6 hydrogens, 1 carbon. Okay, good. Alright, so we got that balanced. Next thing we need to do, you want to do, okay, 4A, so 30 grams of water. So I like to put grams above. Okay, I just like, this always helped me. I don't know, my professor, long time ago, college kind of used this, and I used it, and I've had other students say that it kind of is helpful to kind of know where you're at and where you need to go, right? Without doing it in the setup. So how many moles of NH3? So I'm over here, moles of NH3. I want to go to here. Okay? So remember I told you, if you're given grams of something, probably 90-something% of the time, what are you going to go to? If you're given grams of something, and we've got to find an amount of something else within the reaction, what are you going to have to get it to? So what am I going to have to make this grams into of water? Moles of water, right? So down here I'll put grams of water, and up here I'll put moles of water. So you always got to go through moles. To do any problem, you've got to get these into moles. And if you got any grams, you can't use grams to grams. It's got to be a sequence of steps. So I'm not going to figure this out for you because I think you know 2 hydrogens is 2 grams and 1 oxygen is 16 grams. That'd be 18 grams. 18.02 until 1 mole. So now I'm right here. And I need to go over to there. So I just do a mole relationship. That's all I do. So it's a 1 to 2 ratio. So grams cancel out. We need to cancel out moles of water. And then I need to go to moles of NH3. It kind of helps me know what goes on bottom, what goes on top when I go from one spot to the other. So that's a 1 to 2 ratio. And then I'd be right there, and that would be the answer that I need to come up with. Okay. So I've done a couple problems on your worksheet. We're going to go ahead and do a couple of problems. .33 moles. So now we're just going to do a couple problems out of the book. One I'm going to do for you, and then one you'll do, and then we'll see what you come up with. So that'll probably take about almost 10 minutes to do these 2 problems, and then you'll have the rest of the time, 20 minutes or so to finish up whatever you need to on the worksheet, plus 2 additional questions I'll give you. Okay. So the first one, 258, we're going to do is 11. We're going to do number 11. We're going to do A. So 11A, what we're going to go ahead and do. Most of these problems that we're doing here you're going to do quite a bit of throughout the rest of this chapter. So let's just see what they give us. So they give us 11A, they give us grams of sodium. So grams of sodium is 57.5 grams. Now that's where I'm at. All right, what am I solving for?
Grams of
Yes, grams of Na2O. All right, so this is where I need to end up. So the first step, what would be the very first step I would need to do in this process of getting over to that point? What's that?
Never mind.
You probably, all of you probably know what, most of you know what my first step would be, because that's what we've done. We need to get it into this unit before we can do any problem. You got to get into moles. Before we can do any problem in this chapter, I don't care when it is, for the most part, we have to get things into moles. Then we can make, because that's what these numbers, the 4, 1, 2, represent. That allows us to make that comparison. So that's the very first step that we would do. So if we were doing steps, we would go here, this would be step 1, where we're going to go to moles. So it'd be 57.5 grams of Na, change it into moles. So grams of Na to moles of Na. Well, that one's really easy because we just have to look on the periodic table, and it's 22.98. Now we're right here. That's where we're at. Well, we're not over at Na2O yet, but we can get over there by doing what? So we have to come from here over to here and solve for, what do we need to solve unit-wise for Na2O? So these numbers 4 and 2 represent moles. So if I got moles of this, okay, a lot of times you guys can follow your work. So the MOL, or moles of Na, I can automatically write MOL of Na down here, and that kind of lets me start my process. So moles of Na to what? Moles of Na2O. So moles of Na2O. So there's where I put my 4 to 2 ratio. So now I am no longer, after I do my calculation, I am no longer have moles of sodium, but I have moles of Na2O right there at that step. Now I just have to do one more step. What's the third step?
Grams.
Got to go to grams. Can I make a relationship between grams of Na2 and moles of Na2O? Yes, I can. Because I know if I add 2 sodiums with 1 oxygen, that gives me the grams in 1 mole of Na2O. So that's what I'm going to do. Take it times 22.98. Take this times 16. That gives me,
61.
yeah. .96. So then I just put, now here's a tendency, students will do this, don't do this, don't put a 2 down there. Students always seem to always want to use these every time they put moles into these relationships. You don't put a 2 there because that's just for ratios, and we're not doing a ratio here when we go moles to grams. We're going from moles of Na2O, which is 1, to grams of Na2O, which is our molar mass. Okay, which is 61.96. Okay? So then when you do that, you go through the calculations, you will get your unit in grams of Na2O. And you would be done with that step of it. Okay? So the answer for that particular one should be, I think, 7. I just looked in the back. 77.5. So when we do a lab, we're going to measure out grams, and then we're going to come up with measurements of a product in grams, and then we're going to have to see theoretically is that working out right to the experiment. And so we'll probably do that on Tuesday. We'll do a lab on Tuesday. Okay. What I'd like you to do is 12A on your own, and we'll just see what you come up with following the guidelines I showed you here. The book does it in steps too. Okay, they'll show you the step 1, step 2, step 3, but they also put it together all in one equation. They're just canceling out units as you go. Just kind of like if you convert pounds to grams. You just kind of keep going until you get your unit that you got figured out. So go ahead and do 12A. That one should be relatively easy to do. Look at it. Is that what you guys have?
I have 20.7.
20.7, okay. It might be something to do with the molar weights. Usually that's what is going to cause students to be a little bit off, is that maybe you don't take it out as far, maybe you take it out farther. But when I calculated that, I got 20.5 unless I
just,
missed.
for the moles I put, it was a 2 to 2, and because I didn't see the 3.
Yep. So you just make sure that you put 3 to 2, because that's the balanced equation. Now, here's what some students will do, okay? Where it says 1 to 2.2, I have a tendency, and maybe you guys did this, okay? So, right here, some students will write 1 to 1, 1 to 1.01. Did anybody do that? Now, what they're doing, what they're thinking is, they're thinking hydrogen, and so they think just one hydrogen for some reason. And so instead of having one hydrogen, they'll have one hydrogen instead of 2. So that's a common mistake. Not real common, but usually that's a mistake that some students will make. All right. The assignment is for you just to do 2 of these. 13C, you can check your answer. Okay, odds, you can check your answer. So 13C, you can do today. Check your answer. And then 14C, you won't have an answer that goes with that. So, and then we'll turn this in on Monday. Completed.
Will this worksheet be turned in with that?
Yeah, you'll just write these 2 problems on the back. Okay, and then turn that in. If you turn it in on Monday, that way I can check your work and see how you're processing it, going through it.
Do you have an answer sheet to the retake study guide?
I will. I can make it up real quick.
Okay.
So I'll print it off, and it won't take me long to make it up, because all you're doing is
Which one?
doing the type of reactions and predicting. Is there some balancing on there too?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah, I put those 2 on there because that's the ones that students would struggle with.